Hello everyone, I am Miss Hu, your physics teacher. In this video lesson, we'll be going through an overview of the Earth in terms of the rotation of Earth and why Earth has day and night, as well as the orbit of Earth and why there are seasons. This topic is part of the IGCSE Physics syllabus. Now, first things first, here are some basic things you should know about Earth. The Earth is not straight. What do I mean by this? By now, you should already know that Earth is kind of like a spherical shape. It's not an exact sphere. In fact, it's a little bit of a squashed sphere, a bit of an elliptical sphere, if you will. So it's not a perfect sphere, but all right, close enough. And the mistaken assumption is that the Earth will rotate around its axis, where its axis is in a vertical straight line like this. But that's not true. You'll find that the Earth is actually tilted. So when it rotates, it's rotating at a tilt. And that's why when you buy globes, you'll find that the Earth is not rotating around a vertical axis, but the globe is always tilted. The Earth tilts at an angle of 23.5 degrees. And the rotation of Earth is from west to east. So a lot of people always think, oh, Earth rotates from east to west. No, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west because the Earth's rotation is from west to east this way. That means when you place your eyeball above the Earth at this position, looking down, you'll find that the Earth is rotating anti-clockwise. This side's the west, this side's the east. This point on Earth moves from west to east. So the sun appears to be rising in the east and setting in the west because if you were on this point on the Earth, as it moves, the sun is here, it's not moving, it will appear to rise in the east, and as it moves away, it's setting in the west. So rotation of Earth is from west to east. What causes day and night? By now, as science students, you should of course know that the Earth is orbiting the Sun. The Earth is rotating around its axis. So let's say if we look at this diagram, here's the Sun, and the part of the Earth that faces the Sun is where we'll get daylight. The other part of the Earth, which is away from the Sun, doesn't get any sunlight, so that's nighttime. So you can see here in this graphic, this half which is receiving sunlight will be in the day, whereas this half which is not receiving sunlight is in the night. So to help you visualize this, now we have the rotating Earth like this. So we've got a shade here, which is where nightfall is. You'll find that as the Earth rotates around its axis, this part of the Earth is in the daytime and this part of the Earth is in the nighttime. Now, you should also be able to see, because of the tilt of the Earth, you will find that at this current position, there are some parts of the Earth which is receiving perpetual daylight around here, because this area never gets into the shade, whereas this area is receiving perpetual night. That's why you hear of places like land of the midnight sun, where even at midnight, there is still sunlight. Now, this is not true for the entire year because of the tilt depending on the position of the Earth relative to the Sun. You might find that this is true for a few months, and then sometime later, this may be swapped, where now this area may be in perpetual nighttime, and then this area is in perpetual daylight. So let's take a look at some situations that could cause this. And this is of course related to what causes the seasons. So when we talk about the seasons on Earth, there are 4 seasons overall. There is spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Of course, there are many countries in the world which also don't experience seasons, like the countries that are closer to the equator, where it's just perpetually summer, or rather, just rain and shine. But anyway, what causes the seasons? It is everything due to the tilt of the Earth. So you can see in this diagram here, the Earth is orbiting the Sun. Relative to Earth, the Sun is stationary. So we've got the Sun in the middle, and the Earth is orbiting the Sun. And you can see how the tilt of the Earth remains the same regardless of where the Earth is on the orbit. So you'll find that due to the tilt of the Earth, The proximity of the locations on the Earth does not remain the same throughout the entire orbit, except for where the equator is. In fact, if the Earth didn't have any tilt, you'll find that all areas would be constantly receiving the same amount of sunlight throughout the year. There will also be no 4 seasons. That means that some locations may get summer all the time and some locations may get winter all the time. It is because of the tilt that some parts of the Earth can get the 4 seasons. So in case you're wondering, okay, how does this, cause the 4 seasons? Let's take a closer look again. So if we look at how the Earth rotates, and I've drawn a black line here to indicate that this is the equator. For those of you who have forgotten, the equator is the line in the middle of the planet. Now you can see because of the tilt, these areas are much closer to the sun. So because they're closer to the sun, it's hotter. That's why these areas get summer. Based on the line of the equator, you'll find that a majority of the countries that is receiving summer at this point are those in the northern hemisphere. Whereas if you were to look at the countries in the southern hemisphere, they're much further away from the sun, for example on this side. So because they're further away, they're colder, hence they get winter. So this diagram shows us that the countries in the northern hemisphere are now having summer, whereas the countries in the southern hemisphere are receiving winter. Now, what would it look like if the tilt was on the other side of the sun? So you can see in this situation, the tilt remains the same, but the position of the Earth has now changed to the other side of the sun. This black line again is the equator, and now you can see at this position, the countries in the southern hemisphere are much closer to the sun. Therefore, they are hotter, hence they get summer. The countries in the northern hemisphere are further away from the sun. The countries in the northern hemisphere are now experiencing winter. So these two diagrams show us the two extremes, where we get summer and winter on opposing hemispheres. If you're wondering, what about the in-between seasons like spring and fall? At these 2 points, the tilt is in such a way that, well, perhaps the distance of the northern and southern hemisphere are kind of more or less the same. But because they're transitional seasons, where the hemisphere is transitioning from hot to cold, meaning from summer to winter, that's why you have fall, which is a transition season, or from cold to hot, meaning winter to summer, then you'll get spring, which is also a transition season, where the temperature changes from those two extremes. So usually when we want to explain the seasons, we always talk about summer and winter because those are the two extremes where we can see clearly the difference between the positions of the countries in the northern and southern hemisphere for both summer and winter. And that's it for this video. If you found this video to be educational and helpful, please subscribe for more physics lessons by Ms. Ho. Please help me keep making free educational video lessons and lab practicals. Donations are welcomed at my Ko-fi page. That's ko-fi.com/physicsrocks. Do visit my website physicsrocks.com for notes, quizzes, as well as any syllabus update. Thanks for watching and happy studying.